Singapore looks clean, perfect, and controlled on the surface. But what you never see is the hidden network of places and systems that tell a very different story. This is not a travel guide to Marina Bay Sands or Supertree Grove. This video will reveal the forgotten corridors, the secret bunkers, underground worlds, jungle trails, and off-the-map islands that show how Singapore constantly reinvents itself in ways most visitors never notice. By the end of this video, you'll discover the surprising logic behind Singapore's hidden layers and how they reveal a city that rewrote the rules to something almost nobody expects. What if the city's wild spaces aren't wild at all, but carefully stitched into its planning? Most travelers arriving in Singapore step off the plane and immediately notice that everything looks perfect. Gleaming trains glide on time. Streets are spotless. Towers rise like polished glass monuments to modern engineering. It's a city that seems to have been sculpted into existence. But a few minutes away from the skyline, the order starts to blur. There's a thin strip of green that cuts quietly across the island, 24 kilometers long, where the city suddenly feels slower. This is the rail corridor. Old steel tracks still run through the grass. Wooden sleepers sit half buried under moss. Vines wrap around signal posts that haven't worked in years. What used to carry trains between Singapore and Malaysia now carries joggers, cyclists, and families walking under thick tree cover. Former stations like Bukit Timah and Tonjang Pagar have been restored and turned into community spaces and trail stops. Singapore folded it back into the city like a seam, turning hard infrastructure into a living park. Then the path reaches the Bukit Timah Truss Bridge, a rust-red steel bridge that rises above the trees like something frozen in time. It's difficult to believe that some time ago, heavy trains thundered across it. Now, only footsteps and bicycle tires cross the metal grates. In Singapore, even something as industrial as a railway can transform to something more, and suddenly the wild doesn't feel wild at all. It feels designed, and beneath the ground, another layer of Singapore exists, and one most people never see. At street level, everything feels tight. Every block is planned. Every tower has a purpose. Land here is scarce, expensive, and measured almost down to the last square meter. So instead of spreading outward, Singapore is built downward. Far below the skyline, elevators and service doors lead to places the public never notices. Concrete corridors run under highways. Thick cables line the walls. Pipes the width of tree trunks carry water across the island. Entire utility tunnels connect buildings so roads never have to be dug up twice. On Jurong Island, storage tanks aren't just above ground. They're carved straight into solid rock. The Jurong rock caverns sit beneath the seabed. Massive chambers hollowed out like underground cathedrals. By moving industry underground, precious surface land stays open for homes, parks, and businesses. Even the MRT lines slip through these lower layers. Trains rushing through darkness while the city moves calmly above, unaware of the maze beneath their feet. And at the deepest level, the simplest systems keep everything alive. Sewers, water mains, power lines, cooling pipes. They stretch for kilometers, looping under streets like veins under skin. Nothing flashy or Instagram-worthy, but without them, the perfect skyline above would stop in hours. This underground network isn't just infrastructure. Singapore didn't just build upward into the sky. It quietly built a second city below ground, and most people walk over it every day without ever knowing it's there. What about places that feel forgotten, even though they are right next to the modern city? Only a short drive from the glass towers and container ports. The roads around Sembawang grow quieter, the sidewalks thin out. Then, half hidden in the grass, something concrete sticks out of the ground. a low bunker with thick walls and narrow firing slits facing the sea. These are World War II pillboxes, built by the British in the 1930s when invasion felt inevitable. Soldiers once waited inside them, watching the coastline. Today they sit empty, cracked by heat and rain, slowly being swallowed by weeds. Most people pass by without even realizing what they are. You can also find old wartime tunnels hidden beneath jungle canopy. Their entrances dark and easy to miss unless you know exactly what you're looking for. None of these places show up on the postcards, but they tell the part of Singapore's story the skyline can't. Before the supertrees, before the skyline, before the perfect order, there were soldiers, villages, and communities carved into this same land. And instead of disappearing, their traces simply faded into the background, waiting quietly beside the future. And how does nature survive in a city where every square meter counts? From the financial district, it takes less than 20 minutes to trade steel and glass for something completely different. The sidewalks disappear. The air turns thick and humid. The sound of traffic fades into insects and birds. This is Bukit Timah Nature Reserve. One moment, the skyline is overhead. Next, the path is dirt and roots, winding through one of the last patches of primary rainforest left in Singapore. Towering dipterocarp trees block out the sun. Long-tailed macaques watch from the branches. Monitor lizards slide across the trail like small dinosaurs. At the center stands Bukit Timah Hill, just 164 meters high. But here, it's the highest natural point on the entire island. From the top, glass towers peak above the canopy in the distance, a reminder of how close the city really is. Then there's Sungai Buloh Wetland Reserve, near the northern coast. Wooden boardwalks cut through mangroves and muddy flats. During migration season, herons, sandpipers, and storks rest here after flying thousands of kilometers. Saltwater crocodiles sun themselves near the water's edge. Ships sit silently offshore, waiting to enter the port. Wildlife on one side, industry on the other, both existing at the same time. This isn't nature pushed to the edge of the map, but a living system the city protects on purpose. Because in Singapore, even one of the most engineered places on Earth still leaves room for something untamed. And somehow it works. What about culture and tradition in a place that looks so modern? From the mainland, a small bumboat crosses the narrow Johor Strait. 10 minutes later, the skyline disappears. No skyscrapers, no MRT lines, no glass towers, just dirt paths, wooden houses, and the sound of cicadas. This is Pulau Ubin, one of the last places in Singapore where village life still feels untouched. Old kampong houses stand on stilts above the ground, their paint faded by salt air. Bicycles lean against wooden fences. There are no traffic lights here. No rush, only narrow trails that wind past rubber plantations, abandoned granite quarries filled with rainwater. Locals pedal past on mountain bikes, bumping along gravel tracks that feel closer to the 1960s than the future. Hidden deeper in the trees sits the German Girl Shrine, a tiny temple built around a century-old story that residents still whisper about. It's the kind of place that doesn't show up on maps and can only be found if someone points the way. And yet, this island exists just a few kilometers from one of the most high-tech cities on Earth. Back on the mainland, that same energy shows up in smaller ways. In wet markets at dawn, in hawker stalls at midnight, in aunties folding dumplings by hand while trains glide overhead. So what really makes Singapore different from every other world city? It's not that it's clean, modern, or efficient, because everyone expects that. It's that Singapore rewrote the rules by blending precision with the unexpected. It hides its infrastructures underground, reclaims old railways into jungles, preserves wild forests beside skyscrapers and keeps tradition alive in places most tourists never set foot. And when you leave this city thinking you saw everything, remember, what you didn't see might be the most important part of its story.